All right, so I wanted to do a video on my Harbor Freight trailer. This is the 1195 pound model, and I bought it here in about May of 2021, and it was hard to get, but I got it for 350 bucks. And I think just recently it went up to 500, which is it's kind of crazy because it's been 350 for forever. But anyways, I got one of these. My brother's had one for years, and I just got kind of tired of borrowing his, and I wanted to do some different things on mine, anyways. Um, not too much to say about the build process of the frame itself. It was pretty easy. I would suggest make sure you have an impact driver, um, and that made everything much easier, right? Not having to ratchet down every single bolt and everything. So that went pretty straightforward. A couple things that I did, not differently, but just some things I did was like on the rear light here. I drilled a hole through the frame and then ran the wiring through a grommet and then down the frame. I just wanted that to be as clean as possible. You can see here before where I actually ran the wiring through a hole here, and this was my ground. But I thought that was silly. Like, why have even that amount of wire? I pull this thing through the woods a lot, and so there's always sticks and stuff, and I didn't want the wiring getting ripped out by whatever I was driving by. So anyways, I did that. I opted to go 3/4 inch pressure treated plywood, which in 2021, that was a very expensive piece of wood. But worth it, I think, for the long haul. I used carriage bolts and nylock nuts to hold the floor down, mostly because it was cheaper to do that than to use, your flat washer, split washer, and regular nut combo. So it's all held together with nylock nuts, and that is consistent with the frame portion, right, from Harbor Freight. That's all nylock as well. And I did do 3/8 bolts, through bolts here on all the stakes just to make that really nice and tight. And then I did 1x6 lumber. I started out, I bought 1x4 lumber, but I realized after doing a little bit of math that, these being 2 feet, which is what I wanted, I would just have more negative space than wood. And I wanted more wood than negative space. So in between each one of those is 2¼ inches of space, and it all just about adds up to 24 inches to the top of the stake there. You can see I have it set up as like a wagon ride, hay wagon thing. We just had the 4th of July, so we had the bunting and flags and stuff on it. And it was great. Everybody had a great time with it. I got these corner braces from Amazon, 8 of them for like $16, right? You need 2 per side. They actually hold the side really nice and tight. I'm happy with how that came out. And I just need the one at the top, and it sort of holds everything together. Also, I was on Etsy, and I saw this cool radio flyer sticker, so I went ahead and bought a pair of those for like 12 bucks. And I think that's kind of what they looked like when I was a kid. That's like the late 70s, early 80s sort of vintage look. So we did that. The sides are held on with 3/8 lag screws and washers. And I just decided I didn't want through bolts coming through all over the place here. So for a cleaner look, I just did lag screws, and they're more than adequate to hold these sides on. Up front here, I ditched the 1 7/8 coupler, which is what comes with the 1195 pound trailer, and I just bought a 2-inch coupler at Harbor Freight, and that's because my tractor over there, which is mostly what pulls this, and my Chevy Suburban, everything I have is outfitted with a 2-inch ball, so I didn't want to mess with having to have, different sized hitch balls. So I think it was like less than $15 to just change the coupler instead. So everything runs on 2-inch. I tried to keep the wiring nice and clean, right, and used whatever you call it, shielding, and keep it real straight. You shouldn't see any sloppiness or wiring hanging out here anywhere. And then I gave it a nice, lead there. I was really happy with all the powder coating. Everything's really nice. The gauge of the hardware, and I don't know, this thing seems to be really, really well built. Another major thing is I didn't build this to be folding, right? If you look down the center here, down this center seam, there is no seam, right? It's all one piece. And so all the carriage bolts into the thick plywood floor, it's very, very rigid. So my brother's is built to be a folding one, and just there's a lot more ricketiness in that, you know, and this thing is just super, super solid. The one other thing I did was I just welded the hinge because with the bolt sticking through it, it got in the way of the wood, and I didn't feel like cutting the wood, so I just welded the hinge. I have no problem with that. I never intend to fold this thing up. And that also means that I don't have to run the brackets and casters and stuff here, and that really just cuts down on your ground clearance. And again, this thing gets used as a yard cart more than on the road, so having plenty of ground clearance is going to be important. And then around the back, keeping with sort of the hay wagon theme, right, I just have this sort of temporarily rigged up. This is a pair of grab handles from a play set that we never used. And I braced in the corners, and it's all actually really sturdy. I had old people, young people, all sorts of people all over this cart, you know, for the 4th of July here, and nobody had a problem getting in and out. So this is working. I also went and got a load of mulch all the way up, piled right up over the top, and there was tons of, you know, suspension travel left. So this thing it is just great for what I need it for. You're never going to haul a huge amount of dirt or anything like that in it, but again, for sticks and stuff around the yard, giving rides on our property, we've got about 8 acres, so it's perfect for that. The tractor pulls it just nicely, and yeah, I like it. One last thing that I did up front here, so when we went to do our mulch run, I needed like some shovels and pitchforks and stuff, so I got these nice rubber, I don't even know what you call these things, just like clamps, right, to hold yard equipment in. So we had some shovels and pitchforks and stuff like that, just kind of held in. And the other nice thing about stake sides is you have all sorts of points for tie downs, right? That's why I did this instead of plywood. You can just, there's tie downs everywhere. When I did the mulch, we did have to put a tarp in there, just so that mulch wouldn't be spilling out the sides, and that's fine. That's a concession that I made, you know, not having solid sides. But this is how mine came out, and again, it was $350 for the frame, and I ended up spending about another $250 on the wood, and that's just because in 2021 here, wood prices are insane. That same amount of wood should have been like $150 or less. But you know what? There was all the hardware and stuff too. And in the end, it's a really nice cart. Came out really solid. Again, if you have no intention of folding it, go ahead and just make it with a one-piece floor, and it's going to be so much more solid. I'm just going to cover mine with this tarp here and leave it outside. So that's it. Harbor Freight 1,195 pound trailer.